Hello and welcome. I'm Brent Combest, Cloud Services Channel Development Manager for Microsoft Dynamics. This short video is the second of our series titled From the Cloud. Today we'll be discussing how the appetite for implementation services varies by market segment and what that means for partners as they build their approach for moving to the cloud. A little later on, I'm going to be joined by Dan Jones, Sales Manager for CRM Online in the U.S. subsidiary. For the past 3 years, Dan and his team have been engaged directly with our CRM Online customers and are well versed in the overall attitude and desires of companies acquiring CRM as an online service. But before Dan joins me, I wanted to take a minute to talk through this at a strategic level. As we've learned through our research, the profitability model and approach for going to market varies significantly by segment, and partners will need to pay close attention to this. As an example, when we look at the enterprise space, or EPG as we call it internally, by and large, these customers see their business process as competitive advantage. As a result, they'll be more inclined to look for a solution to be adapted to their unique needs. Partners who focus on this segment will still be able to capitalize on implementation services. However, partners will want to account for the fact that roughly 15% or so of the billable time typically designated to installation and configuration is now no longer available since the service is already loaded onto a server in our data center. Additionally, partners who focus in this space will likely need to adjust their selling and delivery motions around a seed and expand approach. We've seen this work for our key competitors, where they deploy the service to solve one or two key business challenges for the customer. From there, build a trusted advisor relationship, and then expand the solution like a virus across the business. As you move down into the CTM space, or into what we call the mid-market, the need to offer packaged IP and limit your implementation services becomes more of a necessity. Here, customers expect the solution to be available for a fixed monthly fee and solve 70 to 80% of their needs out of the box. Now, we expect there to be some willingness to pay for a limited set of customization, but by and large, partners will need to shift their business models accordingly. Lastly, customers in the SMB space, particularly those in lower mid-market and below, will have a strong aversion to services. For partners attempting to go after the lower half of this space, say 50 employees and down, many will struggle to achieve enough scale in order to maintain profitability. This comes in both the form of selling efficiencies as well as being able to support the volume of customers required in order to make money in the space. And the final point I challenge many of our field team members and partners to think through is that in most cases, offering a set of repeatable IP can actually be more profitable than traditional services. We found through our benchmarking that most partners realize a services margin in the range of 30 to 45%, while those offering packaged IP typically realize nearly double that from a profitability standpoint. With that, I'd like to invite Dan to join me. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
So first, tell me a little bit about your role and that of your team.
Sure. So I'm a U.S. sales manager for Dynamics CRM Online here in the U.S. And for the last 3 years, I've led a CRM Online focused team in the U.S. My team came together as part of a startup effort before CRM Online initially was launched. Our charter at the time was to evangelize CRM Online with our partners and sell the service to customers through our partners. Over time, our focus has evolved, but we've remained focused on CRM Online throughout. Through literally thousands of CRM Online sales engagements with customers across all of our segments, we've learned a great deal about the on-demand buyer and what their motivators and expectations and predispositions are. And it's really great to be here today to have the opportunity to share these learnings with our partners through this session.
Great. So tell me a little bit more about what types of customers your team engages with.
Sure. My team engages with customers of all sizes across both commercial and public sector segments. We tend to invest our sales and technical sales resources differently based on segment and deal size. We partner really closely today with our field sales resources, our PAMs and our SSPs, and act as CRM Online experts in either a support or in a lead capacity, depending again on segmentation, partner involvement, and opportunity size.
Okay, great. So in thinking a little bit more about the segments, take me through the mindset of an EPG customer. That's a good place for us to start, and really what some of their buying drivers are.
Sure, definitely. So I think one of the things that we've definitely experienced over time is that nearly every enterprise customer can tell a story about a CRM project that failed. The reasons for the failure could be numerous, but the point is they've been burned by poor CRM projects in the past and are looking to make sure that they don't fail again. Enterprises, like all customers in all segments, are looking for fast time to value. They're looking to drive early success in a pilot that they can then build on and leverage that momentum from the pilot to carefully expand their use of the application over time. We really found that CRM Online gives enterprises the opportunity to quickly get the application online, fund the software component of the project through operational budget, and expand their subscribers on a timeline that makes sense for them. I think all of the partner services that partners would normally sell to enterprise customers in on-premises deployments are also available in CRM Online. So things like business process consulting, advanced customization, integration, custom development, and many other services that you're accustomed to bringing to bear will be available to you with CRM Online. I think a couple things stand out. Some of our largest CRM Online enterprise customers actually have some of the simplest implementations. In fact, one of our largest CRM Online customers uses the service simply to manage the activity of their field sales force. So when we first engaged in the opportunity, their executives wanted greater visibility into the impact of their field sales force on the business results and really have a better sense for the activity that they were driving with their respective accounts. So this particular customer started with 250 users of our service and over a couple of years' time has actually expanded to almost 800 users. I'll give you another example, Brent, in the enterprise. Another one of our largest CRM Online enterprise customers actually started with only 15 seats. So this is a great example of the seed and expand scenario. Within about 6 months, they expanded their use to 100 seats of CRM Online. And then within another 6 months, they were able to expand to about 600 seats. Now, about 18 months from the initial project kickoff, this customer, we see them consistently add about 15 to 20 seats per month as they expand their use of CRM Online globally. So what does this mean for the partner? In this particular case, the initial phase of services for the partner was only about $10,000, a very modest amount for a lot of our traditional enterprise-focused partners. But over about 12 months, we've seen this customer invest several $100,000 in this particular partner services implementation. So a couple learnings from these two scenarios. I think it's important for partners to understand that there's some risk in that in their pre-sales efforts with enterprise customers, be really careful not to appear overly complex or pitch a lot of services early, even when they approach you with business requirements that warrant that cost and complexity. If the decision is being made ultimately in the line of business, your ability to focus on speed to result and customer success in manageable phases will position you successfully against your competitors. If you're trying to do the big all-at-once implementation project and Salesforce.com or another one of our agile competitors is involved, they may very well take this deal from you by positioning simplicity and time to value for the prospect.
Okay, so that's a great synopsis of the enterprise space and talking through proof of concepts and really building that trusted advisor relationship. Kind of take me down a couple layers beneath that in the market. So as we look into mid-market and SMB, how does that attitude or approach change?
Definitely. Well, I think the need to move quickly, improve value in a short time frame, and then expand customer adoption over time that we saw in the enterprise is really consistent across all of the segments. But I think there are some nuances to customer behavior with regard to mid-market and small business. So in mid-market, I think the customer behavior and the opportunity for partner services could be like that of the enterprise, or in some cases it could be like that of SMB. I think the mid-market space is not as clearly defined from a customer behavior perspective as we've seen in SMB and in the enterprise. I think something to keep in mind with regard to mid-market selling for our partners is in mid-market there typically is some, or in many cases, fairly robust IT that may find themselves involved in the selection or in the project. But the difference in IT philosophy between the mid-market and enterprise is kind of significant. I think in enterprise, the IT organization tends to be more strategic, and in many cases they have a more mature mindset in their opinions about partner services. In mid-market, partners can be perceived as threats to the value of internal IT, and it's just something to be very mindful of as you're selling in the mid-market space. I think the key, considering mid-market isn't as clearly defined from a behaviors perspective, is to really do excellent discovery with your prospect. Understand their biases, understand their drivers, and then pursue the business like you would in either an enterprise or in an SMB fashion based on what you learn through thorough discovery. I think definitely, to Brent, your earlier point, in mid-market, Fixed price, fixed scope engagements really do help customers minimize the risk and make really deliberate choices about how they invest in the project and in partner services. In SMB, though, I think there are some very clear behaviors for customers with CRM Online. The cloud brings an expectation of being able to do it yourself. And there are lots of do-it-yourselfers across all segments, but particularly in SMB. Mm-hmm. So I think participating in this segment from an opportunity perspective may not be a fit for all partners. And partners who have been successful in SMB have positioned themselves in a way I like to refer to as the retired plumber who works at the home improvement store. It's kind of a funny metaphor, but I think it actually fits. They want to help the customer find what they need. They want to share their experience in a brief and scalable manner and try to set the customer up for success in really implementing CRM Online themselves. Through this focus on helping the customer to help themselves, we've seen partners create a really trusted relationship, and then they end up seeing services revenue that tend to come in the form of things like training for administrators or end users, or other services like configuration and data migration. But I think it's critical for partners here to really be smart and manage your cost of sale in SMB and expect little, and in some cases no, services investment in the upfront purchase in the space.
Yep. So I think those are good points. I think as I think about the SMB space and I look at the cost of sale for partners, that's going to be a big obstacle and a challenge for them. Mm-hmm. Our average cost of sale, and I'll speak to the U.S. market because that's where we've done a lot of our research, it's very high. It's around $25,000. And this actually needs to be driven down closer to the $6,000 or $7,000 range to play in mid-market, and even below that when you go into more of the SMB space, mm-hmm. or the smaller part of the market. I'm also concerned about partners' ability to scale, mm-hmm. right, and being able to offer and mass things like training. So I think those are things that partners need to be cognizant of when they're thinking about their business model and thinking a little bit differently about how they approach profitability and pay close attention to how they'll drive that scale or volume component into their business. So
absolutely.
Very good points. So as we begin to wrap things up here, are there any closing thoughts or anything else you'd like to add?
Sure, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some final thoughts. If you're a partner sitting on the fence trying to determine if CRM Online is something you should invest in, I'd say that your future depends on embracing the cloud, as the industry across all segments is heading very aggressively to the cloud, particularly with the CRM workload. Yeah, and I would definitely echo that, Dan. You know, we did some research recently in looking at our own sales funnel, and we've seen over half of the deals for CRM Online, or for CRM, I should say, that we're engaged in, have a predisposition to the cloud. And this isn't just something that Microsoft has a strong attitude and is trying to drive. The market itself is really driving this, as well as our competitors out there. So for partners, if you're not already engaged in building a cloud practice, I strongly urge and push you to do so today rather than waiting to do so. Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, industry and solution area expertise is more important than geographic proximity to the customer with the cloud. You may sell, in fact, and service very, very large customers that you actually never meet face-to-face. So with that, I would just say we need our partners very much and very quickly to move to the cloud with us, and I look forward to selling with you all very soon.
All right, great. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
I also want to take a minute to thank our partners and field team members who joined us today as well. As we wrap things up here, I want to remind you that the topic from today, as well as all of the videos from this series, are covered as part of our Dynamics Cloud Partner Profitability Guide. And I'd like to urge you to spend some time reviewing that document as a reference when building your cloud strategy. Please join us next time when we'll be discussing the impacts of moving to the cloud has on a partner's P&L. Thanks again, and see you next time on From the Cloud.